Let's start over. Welcome to National Prayer Breakfast. I'm your host. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Scarpa. Let's start over.
No, I like it.
Kratom got me fucked up.
Yeah.
It's the Kratom.
It's like you took Kratom and they're like, do you know the president?
You remember when Roseanne Barr said what she said, and it was all because of a Kratom high? Kratom, one of the many side effects that comes along with Kratom is racial slurs.
Dude, the Roseanne clip, I mean, that, I watch that so often.
Yeah.
I thought the bitch was white! And she just takes like a long drag on a cigarette. I love that so much, like, she's clearly losing it in the clip, and like, she's like whipping her hair back and like, I thought the bitch was white! But, I don't know what she'd say. She like said, she called some woman Planet of the Apes or something, right?
Yeah, she said it wasn't good.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, if I didn't know better, that sounds a little racist.
Yes. Well, I would say it's like probably just safe not to make those types of comments if you're not sure of someone's race anyway.
Sure.
But in her defense, the bitch did look white.
Oh, yeah. Anyone could have made that mistake.
Which is why you don't want to... You want to... Before you call someone a Planet of the Apes, you want to get their 23andMe.
True. At least...
at
least we got something good out of it. We got Goldbergs, right?
What's that?
That's like the spin-off of Roseanne?
I don't know. I was just more of a fan of the clip.
That was when you became a Roseanne fan?
Oh, for sure. I thought the bitch was white. That's nice. She didn't just say I thought the bitch was white. She said, I thought the bitch was white. White. That is, I fell in love in that moment. Funny thing, actually, not that this changes anything, but humans are in fact apes.
Yeah.
One of the 5 great apes.
If you put your faith in science, which I do not.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure Roseanne does either. I'd have to.
I'm more of a vibe guy.
For sure.
Science lies all the time,
I had a
whereas faith is never lied.
I had a pamphlet I was going to show you earlier today. Some evangelicals of some sort came by to try and have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
They asked, like, do you think the world will end in violence, or will we overcome violence for, an era of never-ending peace? Something like this. And I was just like, I think it's a little too soon to tell.
Yeah.
And they asked, like, do you read the Bible? And I was like, yeah, but I'm an atheist. I always try to be people fuck with them a lot. I always try to be extra friendly, actually.
Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to fuck with them.
In fact, I'm never nicer than when I'm talking to some sort of religious person at my door. Yeah, because I don't want... Well, first of all, like, I would hate to have that job.
Yeah, it would be terrible, but they... and a lot of them are just kind of like... like Mormons, for example, whenever... they're like coming of age.
Yes.
Whenever they come of age, they have to go on mission, whether that's like in a different country or whatever.
And they'll be ostracized if they don't, do all this.
Correct. So it's like, it's hard to get mad at them because in many of them it's all they've ever known. And then even the ones who do come into it late in life, chances are they're in it because of some sort of horrible tragedy.
Yeah.
So it does get hard to get mad at them. However, the big dogs that are in charge of operations like that, fuck them.
Yeah. Well, they should be in prison not only because I mean, depending on the religion, like, you know, a lot of them,
they're insanely
having
wealthy.
Sex with the followers' wives.
That too.
Stockpiling weapons. But the reason I always try and be extra nice to those people is I don't want to be like sassy and like angry or whatever, and then they're like, and like also reveal I'm an atheist, and they're like, oh, he's got so much pain in his heart, because that's gonna make them want to fucking come back.
Yeah,
they're gonna be like, oh, he needs us. Point. He's an atheist, and he was so angry. Right. But if you're like, oh, yeah, I'm an atheist. You guys have a great day though. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Like,
yes.
Whatever. Peace be upon you.
Yeah. Live long and prosper. Did you see that someone called from the thumbnail from our video episode last week, episode 34, Lo-Fi Girl is
which, by the way, is actually episode 35. I mislabeled it and haven't fixed it. By the time you see this, it will be 35.
Good. Episode 30. Well. Okay. Yeah, because we put. I don't think that was your fault. Anyway, we can.
No, it was. Yeah.
But so we had a commenter, Jordan Kaler, on YouTube. Shout out. Said, from the thumbnail, I thought Tim Dillon finally scored an interview with Charlie Manson. But hey, this is pretty entertaining too. So we just wanted to say thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
People have been making comments about my appearance, and I would just say, what part of I'm making a high fantasy graphic novel about a wizard that looks like me do you not understand?
Yeah, the Charlie Manson isn't a great. I mean, what do you would you prefer to be compared to him or Tim Dillon?
I mean. Morally, Charlie Manson. But physically, I don't really care. I don't care that much about my appearance somehow.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say I don't see physicality.
Yeah.
I don't see body size.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think the more time goes, like I think I don't know what is causing this, if it's like water or like, vitamin deficiency or whatever. But I don't really care if I look old anymore or like not good. It used to be like something that like bothered me constantly. It's just like people for the past 10 years have been like, wait, you're not that old. You're way older than that, right? Right, or whatever. And it just eventually got to me, and I was like, okay, motherfuckers, I'm never going to shave again, That's where I'm currently at.
I mean, there's definitely the benefit of being a man, like, aging is more acceptable. Also, in my opinion, that's kind of my thing, but men peak at like 47-ish, their looks. Yeah. That might just be my broken psyche, but
sure.
Though I'm not attracted to women, but I think women also look gorgeous when they're older. Like they kind of get a different look, like they lose collagen in their face.
They get more of a matte finish.
It's more of like a matte finish. But it's like they lose like collagen, so it's less of like a baby fat face and more of like, it looks kind of elegant, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe guys that doesn't make them want to fuck, because it's a sign of being less fertile.
Well, I mean, it depends on the guy.
Yes.
Of course.
If you check with some TikTokers, we're gonna start reviewing. I've collected a bunch of horrific TikToks that I'm gonna show Aaron in the next episode.
You are the leading expert on the phenomenon. Like, you are a cringe scientist. The things that you have found on the internet and then shown me against my will, will never leave my thoughts.
Well, here's some exciting news.
Okay.
And probably our next episode, we're gonna have a whole segment of cringe review where I show you the horrific TikToks, and the audience will watch them with us, and we'll get your reaction. But we're also going to do like deep dives into different characters from TikTok. So there's, a common phenomenon is these big age gap relationships.
Yeah.
There's a couple fun characters we're going to look into there.
Those are always horrifying, the ones you've shown me. We should bring back, so if you don't know, Keith and I used to have a podcast called Christians in Cambodia Getting Coffee. And one of our favorite characters from that was Missy Model, I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
But she was just, like, during the pandemic, she was fun. Like, she's not classified under cringe for normal people, I don't think.
Yeah.
But she's just this, like, kind of, just a blue no matter who liberal influencer. And it was shocking how sycophantic she just was. Like, you remember her whole thing is she just does Weird Al, except for she just rewrites lyrics to popular songs, and makes it, like, from the perspective of a shitlib, which she is.
Yeah.
So she made these songs that were like, I trust you, Dr. Fauci. Like,
yeah.
It was just like, it was a different type of cringe. We kind of have gotten away from, like, making fun of shitlibs because...
Well, here's the thing, like, I think she's
now.
well-meaning. I probably agree with her with more things than I would agree with a lot of people in this country.
Yeah.
But it's sort of the cringe thing for me is, like, even if you don't hate Fauci or you think he's good at his job or whatever, we don't need to be sucking public figures and politicians' dicks for doing their job.
Right.
We don't need to be lionizing them or whatever the fuck. Like,
no.
He's doing his job. No one's like...
even if you are, there's better people to be sucking off than Dr. Anthony Fauci.
No doubt. Yeah.
It's such a sad thing. She was also, I guarantee, she was just like a Cuomo-sexual, sort of.
Cuomo-sexual.
Just, like, by the book, fucking Ruth Bader Ginsburg merch, Kamala, like, all the classic, like, modern shit.
And that's the thing, like, I like all of most of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's positions, and the thing she was wrong about, she later admitted she was wrong, which you don't see a lot in politics.
Right.
But then just, like, the sucking off of, Ruth's clit all the time, and just, and I think that's sort of what probably motivated her to not retire earlier, is just this, she became a celebrity, and
yeah.
No matter how principled or serious someone is, people get addicted to that.
Don't idolize any politicians unless they're Bernie Sanders. I've always said that.
Yeah, which, by the way, if Bernie had become president, he would have become the opposition. People don't realize that, like, FDR, our best politician in terms of, like, progressive, like, economic policies. He would not have passed all that shit if there wasn't, like, a strong, organized labor force forcing his hand.
Yeah. And if you look into FDR's stances on things, he was war hawkish. He was he wasn't the progressive thing.
Well, that was the Democrats of the time.
But that's what Biden could be. Biden could have his hand forced, and it would be the greatest thing ever for his legacy. He could just fucking...
Well, any Obama certainly could have been that too. Like, here's the thing. Obama was getting fuckloads of money from Wall Street and...
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, and, like, whatever, all these moneyed interests, and there's no organized labor in this country, so who's he gonna listen to?
Mm-hmm.
Whose bidding is he gonna do? I mean, fuck Obama for, what he did do, but... Like, it is the natural result of the environmental pressures. And FDR especially, like, he went way far beyond, I think, what we could have hoped for from Obama. But he was so radical compared to, like, what... He was so radical compared to, like, what, like, the corporate America at that time wanted... these like wealthy families like the Vanderbilts and Rockefellers were thinking about hiring a hit to kill him. That's how much like he was pissing them off. And a politician, no matter how much they believe in this policy, aren't going to risk getting assassinated if they're not getting pressured to by the people that elected them.
Sure.
And one of the Vanderbilts, one of these families that fucking hated FDR, his daughter ended up marrying into that family. At the time he was president. So like if he wasn't being pressured by organized labor, he would have been a Vanderbilt basically. He would have, sure. Even though he was probably was a progressive ideologically.
Yeah.
Not a Vanderbilt, a DuPont, I think. His daughter married a DuPont.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird to go back to that time because I don't know when the last time you like read about the labor movement or anything was. I didn't learn about the labor movement when I was in public school, really, and I definitely didn't when I was in homeschool either. In fact, like I should have brought this, but I was back home and I was looking at the books that, like, there's some books at my parents' house from my time being homeschooled, and I found this book called A Patriot's History of the United States, which is clearly a response to Howard Zinn. Did we talk about this on the last episode?
Yeah, you sent me the back description, and it was like, a lot of history books would have you believe that America was founded on slavery and genocide.
Yes.
That is not the case.
Exactly.
And it's like, I would like to see what their explanation.
I didn't mean to get off topic. We were talking about FDR. But reading that shit for the first time, like as an adult, I read, last year I read A People's History of the United States, which that's what that book is. It's like a conservative, literally endorsed by Rush Limbaugh, answer to A People's History of the United States.
Is that Chris Hedges?
No, that's Howard Zinn. So,
Howard Zinn, that's what he said.
A People's History, it came out, it took Howard Zinn many years to write it. But it has excerpts and just accounts from slaves, from indigenous people, women, workers, stuff like that. Shit that you normally don't really hear about in a regular history book. And this is the shit that, make no mistake, like the history of the United States. We call it critical race theory now because that's the buzzword that the right-wing propaganda machine that keeps America alive calls it. But that type of perspective, like especially the labor movement, which was glossed over whenever I was growing up, it gave me a new perspective on FDR because as a lefty, I had always assumed FDR was the greatest. Because he was FDR and he did under FDR there was a progressive tax rate, there were important labor laws passed. I think the 8-hour workday came under FDR. Social Security, just all the New Deal shit, and I had always been like, that's FDR's doing, but I had never learned about Eugene Debs and the Socialist Party in America, the unionization, the fucking the Rockefellers and the railroad people hiring Pinkertons to create false flags and cause violence in the streets and blame it on union agitators. It was a fucking war zone. Yeah. Literal war zone. They would open fire on fucking union agitators constantly.
Yeah.
And that it's just like it's so. I mean, part of it is like, yeah, it's a little bit more boring than reading about Pearl Harbor and atomic bombs and shit like that. but it's so important. Like, and it makes everything makes so much more sense if you know about that struggle.
And it also it really explains why we're at where we are with politics, where it's all culture war, wedge issue bullshit from both sides. Like, argue about abortion all day, argue about race all day, argue about gay marriage all day. They'll never let this shit go. It benefits both sides to have us fighting over this shit, because then we're not talking about economic policies between us. And actually, that's the other thing. Those issues, most social issues, most Americans agree on them. Like, most Americans agree we should have, you can
quote the fucking Communist Manifesto to most conservatives without them knowing it, and they will agree with everything in there.
Yeah. But even the social issues are not as divisive as we're led to believe. Like, 70% of Americans now support gay marriage. They're trying to get rid of it. Like, 60-something% support Roe v. Wade. They got rid of it. So they make it sound like, oh, it's this big divisive thing. But actually it's not. But they've queued up this wedge issue to be like, this is the thing we're fighting about this week, which should be settled. You get 51%, that's you won. That should be that should be the end of it. You don't have to get this idea that you have to get to 100% consensus on a social issue is fucking bullshit. It's meant to waste all of our times to stop us from talking about, like, class issues, whatever.
Right.
And
they don't want. Well, there's. I feel like. The whole propaganda machine, obviously during the Cold War, they wanted to stop the spread of things like social concepts like socialism, Marxism, whatever. And they've effectively made unions disappear in the United States without anyone knowing or caring.
Yeah.
Which even like I don't know what news sources you get your shit from.
You're getting it here now.
But it's staggering. Obviously, like, I'm a lefty. I pay attention to, like, that I get my sources from a lot of left-leaning independent media or whatever, which is very, like, union worker focused or whatever. But there used to be, like, huge labor sections in every newspaper. That used to be the lifeblood of the Democratic Party. Is union guys voted blue, and effectively that connection is completely erased. There's no correlation.
The right wing's propaganda has been so good on this issue of making left in general, but especially the Democratic Party, just seem like soft, elitist, managerial, like gay, trans, black, which is ridiculous, of course. Like, labor is everyone, right? Nearly everyone. And it's these, there's got to be a better way to not get dragged into these stupid, intentionally constructed wedge issues that the Republicans pull up. And also, like, stick to your values. I think sometimes people can talk about this in a way that makes it sound like they're advocating for throwing trans people under the bus. But you don't have to do that. You just have to recognize that, like, doctors who their interest is just following the science have settled trans as a real thing like 100 years ago. We don't have to debate anything.
Right. And
if we win electoral battles, we can just listen to what scientists and doctors say, and we don't have to fucking talk about this shit.
Right. And that, I mean, just...
And here's the thing, like I was mentioned before, we do not have to convince everyone. You do not have to have 100% of people accept trans people. You get a majority and you crush dissent. Don't. I mean, like, we talk about flyover states and disaffected people. As long as we're focusing on things that will help those people, they can be as pissed off as they want about, like, this social shit as they want.
Yeah.
We do not give a fuck. You lost. But you have to make it apparent that it is in their best interest to vote for, like, a left candidate or policy.
I do think that, like, behind conservative, right-wing messaging and ideology, I do think, and to a certain extent this exists, in liberal spheres as well, as far as just like more centrist Democrat stuff. What they're not actually afraid of a gay agenda or whatever they call it, like being spread. What they're actually afraid of is having two disillusioned portions of the population, like trans people, and whatever your everyday, like whatever middle class person, working class person who thinks that he's a right winger.
Yeah.
They don't want those two to become friends because
and realize they basically all their interests are shared.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think that's like.
Well, that's one thing I think, like, if we're talking about trans rights, we can really narrow in on healthcare being like a huge factor for them, because it's something that's everyone's getting fucked over on. It affects them slightly more than it does your average person, though. If someone has like a chronic disease, they probably have higher medical costs, but that's an issue that you don't have to have consensus. You don't have to win a culture war. You don't have to soften the hearts of bigots, and people will agree on it. Like, if if a doctor determines someone should, being on hormones or whatever would make them less likely to kill themselves, they should be able to fucking afford that. And it I think it, like, stuff like that, like going back to policy that's obvious and also is a broader thing. I think, like, race, there's another good example of this, like wealth disparity between races. Mm-hmm. I think that is essentially like the closest we'll get to solving racism in this country, is basically erasing this wealth disparity. Yeah. And the only way you're going to do that is some form of reparations, and it will take a long time probably as well. But I think you could sell that just as a mass wealth redistribution, where you raise up the floor of like lower income people generally. Mm-hmm. And that will disproportionately help black people. Yes. You don't even have to promote it that way. I mean, I'd be cool with that. You can just say, like, we're raising the standard of living in this country, and whether they catch on or not, the other white working class people, they may not even be aware that you're disproportionately helping disaffected, like, oppressed minorities.
You do have to tippy-toe, and you
That's
can't say that.
That's what Republicans do all the time. Republicans do this all the time. You cut welfare, you cut food stamps, you cut all these programs because they know it disproportionately hurts black people. They do not say it. They don't come out and say we're cutting welfare because we hate black people. Mm-hmm. They're smarter than that. I think the left has to be smarter than that. Mm-hmm. We don't go out and say, we're here to save blacks. No, you're just like, we're going to make sure people no one's living in abject poverty here anymore. We're making sure people can go and get, like, secondary education. Yes. Everyone. Universal programs.
Dude, something I've been thinking about is just, like, on the ground level, because we talk about these concepts or whatever, and we're a couple of guys in Overland Park just talking or whatever. But I have been thinking, about the people in my life who I have disagreements with ideologically. People like my parents. And just, like, kind of talking to them, like, trying to not be condescending or anything, but just, like, letting them talk and, hearing out, like, where their ideas come from. and why they think the way they do. And I mean, we'll just talk about like the problem of poverty in general. Yeah. Because my parents and a lot of people have the opinion that if a certain group of people is poor, it's because they're lazy or they steal or whatever.
Yeah.
And it, or they, in the case of like evangelical Christians, a lot of them have these opinions about trans people and gay people in general or whatever. And if you talk to them, you'll find out like they don't know a trans person. They've never encountered one. Like, and these are like rural Missouri people. They're not, they're not in the urban centers where there's more diversity or whatever. But dude, it is so hard to hate a group or not have an understanding or have a simplistic idea of why they're set back. That can only happen when you haven't taken the time to actually talk to one.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes both ways. It goes both ways. You don't, when you talk to a MAGA guy, and just like find out about their circumstances, or even something more extreme like QAnon, if you just talk to them for a second and hear them out, it's impossible to just have the same like fucking blind rage that whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just in my own life,
most rational people, you can come to an agreement on way more issues than you would expect.
Yeah.
And if you do encounter someone that's like very right wing and they're like, you're getting the sense that they got pleasure out of watching George Floyd die, you just don't fuck with that person ever again. Like there's too much there that you would have to fix, and they're like, like you can't teach someone empathy and spend all that time before you get to like talking about the politics of it. Like a lot of people are too far gone, but it's not necessarily as many as you think.
Dude, I think the reason why I've been having these thoughts, and I realize that they're like hippy-dippy, and it's convenient right now for me to have that sort of philosophy.
You mean left?
Well, no, I mean just like, because sometimes I'm angry and I'm just like scorched earth and I say mean things about whatever. I've been watching a lot of fucking Cornel West videos lately, and he is the best ever at having a discussion. He can be talking to someone who is saying not only just heinous racist things towards him, whatever, he's not affected. Like he will talk to anyone and give them the benefit of the doubt. He's not insulting. He remains calm and
he calls them like brother and sister.
Yes, he starts every sentence with affection, and just letting you know that he. Whatever.
I think he's the next phase of like the progressive politician. I love Bernie, and he's better than a lot of the more left people. But Bernie had a thing where he was focusing way too often on like the things that were wrong.
Yeah.
But you also have to have a positive vision of, which he did, but his kind of tended to be more curmudgeon and like, here's all the issues we need to solve. Works for me, but I think and the squad is more similar to him, like AOC. They're just talking about the infrastructure and the people dying and stuff. Right. I agree with them, but it's sort of a downer, and it's sort of just like, this is bumming me out.
Right.
But Cornel West or a Marianne Williamson, who a lot of people mocked, I think are really fucking good at that. And
can't watch
leftist politics is it's not just solving bad things. It's like,
it should be about solidarity.
Yeah, it's like repairing like the completely broken social fabric of this country that probably was never really there.
Right.
I mean, there's been a real degradation of And in some ways this is good. Like, we've very much lost religion in this country. And that's going back to, like, the 70s when you saw, like, the cults or, like, the new religious organizations, like, popping up.
That was going on, but also at the same time, the, Christian capitalism was really just starting to take off.
Yes.
That's when, it's 60s and 70s is when, like, Jerry Falwell...
Well, religion became more of a business.
Yes.
And... You sort of had an erosion of communities. We've seen this with unions, and that's something we can't just have the right policies. We have to, like, this country really needs to repair. There's nothing resembling a community here anymore.
No,
unless you're like, really the best, the closest you get to a community is like an oppressed minority of some sort. Like, there really is black communities that, like, deaf people probably have more of a community than most people in this country have because of being different. They have to, but
sure. I'm sure that next week something will happen and I will return to my normal violent rhetoric. But
I really want Marianne Williamson to run, and I would love to see her just, like, fucking take off. She got mocked as, like, being a crystal lady or, like, woo, but if you watch her, she doesn't say anything ridiculous at all. She's just like, this country, like, our policies should be rooted in, like, love for our fellow human being.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason, when she ran last time, people were like, what the fuck is she smoking?
Yeah.
She's just, like, saying, like, very normal things.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I think if you know me or have, like, followed my career at all, like, I'm not, like, a big Biden guy, but I have started just, like, and you want to be careful allowing hope in your heart whenever it comes to democratic politics.
Yeah.
But I mean, this like the elections, the midterms, the way that they turned out without, like, that much, I don't know how much mobilization was really there. I think it was just inherent, like, people were like, I don't know,
pissed about Roe v. Wade, happy about student debt relief. I mean, it really is just... Yeah. People are getting better. I think Americans are getting better at focusing on policy and, like... Yeah. Really, we have issues that are just like, no one's immune to being affected by the failures of our government anymore. Right. You might be for a while, but eventually people are going to be impacted by that, and in a way it's going to suck when, your relative is, doesn't have health care and is dying or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in a way it's like, unless someone's a billionaire and they don't have friends outside their class, which isn't many people, like, people are being affected by how bad things are getting. Yeah. Boomers are retiring and they can't retire. They're, they're finding, like, just how bad they've let Social Security become during their lifetimes.
Dude, and can I say something?
Yeah.
They're also older people, like boomers. They have this new opportunity to look at the way the game is rigged, in a way that they're going to get messaging from the right, because I think the right hates, aspects of right-wing traditional politics hates the tech oligarchs and the tech industry. But it's amazing because I've used that illustration to, like, show my parents, kind of like, so this is called a monopoly. These are feudal lords.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that they failed to see how it's no different than I'm trying to think of a different kind of billionaire or industry where that takes place. But, just a classic, I own all the property, you're fucked, you have to pay me in order to live.
Do you know how many conversations I've had with libertarians which I have many for some reason.
Me too.
Where the conversation sort of reaches a point where I'm like, have you ever heard of this thing called a monopoly?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just like, write this down.
Yeah.
M-O-N-O. Like,
see, Keith, that's exactly the sort of attitude we can't have. We're Cornell West from here on out. We can't be condescending. We're welcoming everyone.
You shouldn't. Well, okay.
I'm kidding.
But if you're talking to anarcho-capitalist libertarian,
sure.
They're like, no. If you just got rid of regulations, there wouldn't there wouldn't be someone controlling all the profits. And
right.
You have to be like, there's
it's
this little thing. Yeah. This little thing called monopolies.
I think.
Aaron,
go ahead.
A quick aside. Last time you brutally trashed my bookshelf.
Did I?
For being tasteless and just fantasy books.
Did I really?
I would like the viewer to move their eye over here. Oh, what's that? Under the globe.
Oh, we have a Tolstoy.
A Leo Tolstoy.
Anna Karenina.
Anna Karenina.
And Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson.
Well, no, more of the top one.
Well, yeah. Not very many impressive books are written by a guy named Brandon.
He's quite good. He's Mormon, actually.
Practicing?
Yes, he teaches at BYU.
Brigham Young.
He posts his lectures on YouTube for free. I mean, he's really good, fantasy writer. But
fuck yeah. On that note, you have some Mormon lore going on in involving Brigham Young University.
Yeah.
Which I want to say, if you're into memes, and I hope you are, check out Brigham Young. It's on Instagram.
BYU Virgins.
Yes, BYU Virgins. It's like this satire account that's just like barely satire, which is amazing. But they've set up like this meme account that's a virginity club, a fictitious virginity club at Brigham Young University, and it's fucking phenomenal.
Feet don't fail me now. Take me to the finish line. We're gonna have a Lana Del Rey theme song
for the show.
Yeah, for this. Actually, I do have a song I wanted to run by you as possible theme music for the pod.
Really? Should we have two different songs? One for National Prayer Second Breakfast?
Yes.
Our Patreon?
Well, maybe that would be good since it's Lord of the Rings. We do the Concerning Hobbit song.
Yes. We could do that, or there's a million good songs from Lord of the Rings. Actually, there's we could do one of the Anya one, or Gollum's song. Is she goes by Enya?
Enya, right?
I always thought it was Anya, or pronounced Anya.
I don't know. I think it's Enya.
What a lovely singing voice on that.
I fucking love Enya. Yeah.
Who's the one? Did she sing Gollum's song? The one that's at the end of Two Towers? Because I fucking love that one.
Maybe. I don't. I'd have to look into it, but. Her voice is very distinctive.
Yeah. Last week, Keith and I filmed a rotating still life that had candles in it, lit candles, and it was a fire hazard.
Yeah, and it had dried leaves on it.
Leaves,
and fabric.
Yes. Yeah. We don't care who we put at risk for our art.
Well, by the time this is up, either it'll be coming out around the same time, or this pod will be out shortly before that, so they'll be able to go check that out right away.
We've been busy. We don't have to get too specific if you don't want, but
we're talking about Mormons, and my second story is going to be set. So not the one that comes out the week of this podcast, but sometime after it, maybe
December.
Yeah, so probably about 3 weeks is a reasonable. I don't want to be too optimistic, but it's set in Utah.
Yeah.
And the main character is Ashton, spelled with a Y.
Yes.
So it has a lot of those, like, unique, like, sounding names with, like, Mormon spellings.
Yes. I've sampled the story. I'm very, very excited about it. Also, I don't know if you've been paying attention to Randy, but ultimately, I released the first chapter, and since then I've been trying my best to. I care about this project so much more than anything I've ever cared about, and I'm taking my time on each and every illustration for it, and I gotta say, it's gonna be fucking gorgeous. I'm so excited for you guys to see it.
We've got an original Randy artwork up here.
That's a Randy prototype before I even, I think that was one where, because I was doing a bunch of wizard paintings and drawings and stuff, and some of them were clearly based off of Gandalf, obviously. And then I came up with the name Randolph the Raw Umber, and then that turned into Randy. And I had already had kind of a narrative about it built up, but yeah, we almost set the apartment on fire last week, and I was just thinking about it because we were out in the hallway, verbally figuring out where the fire extinguisher is, and I was just thinking about how freaked out I would be if I overheard that. Yes.
Yeah, we were in the hallway because I wanted to make sure I knew where it was at if we needed it. I was like, oh yeah, it looks like it's just here in the hallway, so if we start a fire, we'll just come out here and break the glass.
Yeah.
I was thinking out loud, you want to hear our new theme song, Aaron? Well, yeah. You're gonna vote.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. So this is this may or may not be our podcast intro theme song.
Yes. Ooh. That's nice. I'm in. I could do some Kratom to that. Should I have enough? Wait, have I had too much Kratom? I'm gonna ride the lightning. Who is this artist, Keith? Pretty perverse.
Well,
Not
it is
very suitable
a K-pop artist,
okay.
But it's a remix of her song with the rap of a rapper named Cupcake. I don't know if you're familiar with Miss Cupcake.
No. Tell me about Cupcake.
She is the filthiest rapper you'll ever encounter.
No problem.
Yeah. I want to actually... She has some of the just funniest fucking filthy lines. One of them I for some reason it just is so visceral and funny to me is she says, I think we should fuck up in every zip code. It would make my pussy wetter than a fishbowl.
That's delightful.
Yeah, she's comparing the pussy to a dirty, not necessarily dirty, but a fish tank.
Yeah. That is, fish tanks, the scum that you find in a fish tank is amongst the most disgusting substances to line any surface.
Let's see if we can find some good Cupcake lines.
Okay.
No, these are quotes, her saying inspirational things. We don't want that.
If you want to be the next Cupcake. That's our next move, is writing self-help books. We're going to get into the fiction game, and then after we dominate that sphere, we're going to get into self-help. I've thought about writing a book about how to not succeed in art. Or whatever,
yeah,
just how to be poor. I think that was
quite an art to that.
I also have an idea for a book of, like a stoner book, like a coffee table book, that is Aaron's book of scary thoughts. And then have an accompanying book that is like Aaron's book of comforting thoughts. So...
For like someone that's too high or something?
Yes. So you're like, you can read like the horrible things that I think of, and then as a chaser, you can read whatever. Like, not every siren is for you, or what, you know.
Well, here's a radical idea. Maybe people could smoke less weed if they're getting too high.
Hey, I feel like you're talking to your husband right now.
It's something people need to assess. Maybe common thing. I mean, you know, from my own experience, like getting really high and then like. I'm having lots of anxiety and not really drawing a conclusion that...
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the problem. People people drinking like 6 coffees a day and like, I just have so much anxiety. And it's like, well, you are on a fuckload of stimulants.
Or I do that. Yeah. But I haven't... I mean, my anxiety was bad last week for external reasons, and I wasn't smoking very much weed last week.
Yeah, well, you don't want to compound. Let me get some Kratom.
Get in there. Get on my level.
If you're getting too high from weed, maybe try some Kratom for a change.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the Kratom.
But also too much can also give you anxiety.
Okay.
Not like weed, not paranoia,
right?
Scared thoughts, but.
I don't know. I feel like whenever the times that I've eaten Kratom and it's been like a substantial amount of it, like I feel like there's a good like sweet spot where it's not like me right now. I've eaten a lot of that today, and I don't feel like anxious. I feel more of like the body high sort of. I feel. Maybe relaxed is the right word. I feel like tingly.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I'm in a good spot. Hey, speaking of drugs, I did a weekend, this past weekend, I just want to mention, I did a weekend with Craig Conant at the Comedy Club of Kansas City. And I just want to say, most weekends I'm opening for somebody somewhere at a club, and I've met a lot of fucking headliners of varying degrees of fame. Craig Conant is the fucking real deal. And I say that, like, of course, like, the artist and fucking comic in me appreciates him because he is unapologetically himself, and he does, he's not super famous or anything like that. People know who he is for sure, and he's like on his way up, and he sold a lot of fucking tickets, but he's still at this stage where if he's doing a club in the Midwest, it's not gonna all be fucking Craig Conant fans or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was so refreshing to be with a comic in that type of situation that doesn't really make compromises, I feel like. Because when you're just doing clubs in the Midwest and stuff like that, which he does all over, he lives in California, but you're going to be in front of audiences that are fucking retarded, just constantly. And they're not going to get your references, they're not going to get your jokes, they're not going to be down with like dark humor and shit like that. And there is a way to do well. There's a couple different paths you can go down to like do well in a situation like that. My move usually is to just become a hack and just be like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna do the dumbest jokes that I've written,
yeah.
or the ones that I wrote in my first 2 years of stand-up. And that's the move I historically have taken, and whatever. But with someone like Craig, he just does his fucking thing. He's not. He doesn't become a different person whenever the audience is shitty. He stays the fun-loving.
Did he have like jokes that didn't land?
Yeah,
because of that?
Yeah. And I guarantee, that man's funny as fuck, and he's a good joke writer. He got accepted into JFL, which is for comics who are trying to break through.
Is that just for laughs?
Yes, that's the most prestigious. After Sam Talent made JFL, that's when he started really fucking blowing up. Which both of them went the same year, got accepted. But Craig was extremely kind. Aside from that, I kept getting the feeling that he understood who I am and the plight of a comic in my specific situation more than any other comic ever has. He gave me advice. He made some recommendations on how to not fuck up my health so much with caffeine and shit like that. He got me into liquid IV.
What is that? Is that
so
just like a drink with
it's a powder that you mix into, and it's I do think that it has some caffeine in it, but it's not. It's more of a tea caffeine sort of high.
Yeah, green, L-theanine.
Yes, because he saw me drinking an energy drink and
what kind?
Okay, it was a Bang.
Oh my god.
Alright, it was one though. I went through a phase where I was drinking those, which Bang is a pre-workout, I think technically, which I don't work out, never have. But I like those things because I like to go off the deep end or whatever on caffeine sometimes. But yeah, liquid IV is just this powder that you pour into a water bottle basically. And I haven't made it to the store to buy any, but I'm definitely gonna do that.
I get advertised that sometimes. That and Liquid Death, which is the bottled water but in a can form, which I would be interested. The idea is aluminum is better. It's more recyclable, easier to recycle than plastic.
Yeah,
I reuse bottles so many times. It's glass, so you can just wash it infinitely times. But even plastic bottled water, I'll use it 30 times.
I also want to say before we move on from the Craig thing, Jake Redpath was hosting all weekend, and Jake, if you haven't checked Jake Redpath out, he's been on this podcast. I don't know how the episode went. But check out his comedy if you haven't. He was hosting, and he did well. He was consistent all weekend. Jake is one of the few comics around here, I think, that is comfortable with doing intelligent comedy. Because, and I used to be this way as well, I was terrified for people to know my actual opinions about anything, because I thought that whatever, and I was afraid to come off I thought I was smarter than I am. But Jake has been doing these bits, he does bits about police, which is really hard to do in Kansas City, especially in a club setting, because you're going to probably have Blue Lives Matter people in the audience. Jake he's always been funny, but he's fucking exploding right now, and I'm proud of him. Jake Redpath, look him up.
Yeah, I was checking out his stuff this week. Also, I have to say, I'm really and you probably feel this way, jealous of his name. What a Redpath.
That's a great name.
It's such a fucking good name for like someone in entertainment or especially comedy.
Yeah.
That's such like a... It sounds fake almost. It's like...
It does almost sound fake.
It's such like a brandable name.
Dude, his first name's technically Scott, which is not as good, I don't think.
Yeah, you don't want to go with Scott, especially like a comedy. Jake is more...
Yeah.
Which is less...
He's always gone... Yeah, I think he's like me where he's always... Even when he was a kid, he went by Jake.
I mean, in Redpath, easy to spell. Compared to, like, Scarborough, I still don't really know how to spell your name.
Yeah.
Is your name different from, like, Scarborough Fair spelling?
It's different, yeah. There's one less O. My name is 2 syllables. Scarborough.
Scarborough. It's not Scarborough.
No.
Scarborough. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I've been saying it wrong.
I don't know. I didn't know how to spell your last name, if it was 1 or 2 S's.
It's 2 S's.
Yeah. I think also, like, that comes along with, like, just having a smartphone for 10 years. Like, spelling is, like, not...
Spelling is fucking overrated, and it's...
Yeah.
Know what? Because I'm not a great speller, and not because I'm really great at memorizing things, so I could be if I really cared about that.
Uh-huh.
But it was just never something that... Know what it is I second guess myself, and then I'll fuck up the spelling of a word. It's similar to, like, I can type pretty quickly, but if someone's standing over my shoulder, I can't type at all.
Yeah.
And spelling for that is like that for me. Like, I'll see a word. It can even be a simple word. I don't know if this is dyslexia, but I'll see a word and I'm like, that looks weird. And it's a word that I know how to spell. Like,
Same.
Tomorrow, and I'm like, is that how... Why do these letters look... Is it the grouping? I think typing makes it better than handwriting, but I mentioned earlier Brandon Sanderson, the author, probably the biggest author in fantasy right now. He posts his lectures, BYU lectures, on YouTube for free. So if you like interested in writing, and they're really good. But he writes on the whiteboard and all the time. He's like, "How do you spell this?" And it's like words that he should know how to spell as like a professional author. And it made me realize, like, you know what? Like, this guy is a great writer. He writes quality books, huge fucking, like, look how massive these are. Yeah. Massive books. He writes one of these a year.
That's so telling. And what does it make you think? Does it make you like him more or less when you saw him?
Well, he's also not embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
He's just like, how do you spell, like, and it's like,
that's how you have to be.
He's not embarrassed by it, and like the classroom laughs sometimes, but they spell it. And he's obviously not illiterate either. Like, he can spell most words, but I think it's for him like another like mental thing where like you're second guessing. But with smartphones, you don't have to memorize every fucking word. Like, if you get like 70-60% of the way there with the spelling, it's gonna suggest it. Sure. There's no need to like waste our time memorizing, or like stressing about being bad at spelling or whatever.
No. There's definitely no reason to fret about that in this day and age.
So I'll probably never learn how to spell your last name, is what I'm saying.
Who gives a fuck? Yeah, I mean, who really gives a fuck? Keith, did you have any topics that... I think we should wrap this episode up soon. Or what do you think? Should we...
Yeah.
Let's wrap this one up, and then we can get started.
What does the audience say? Comment below.
Comment below. Tell me I look like whatever.
Would you like this to? Yeah, maybe that's the thing. People figure out our who we look like. Know what I was thinking about with this shirt? I could have had it unbuttoned and just been bare chested underneath. Maybe get some of those Bert Kreischer fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what you fuckers want?
Yeah.
I just start being shirtless on this pod. I'm the machine! Yeah. No, we love everyone.
We do. We do.
Bert Kreischer, I saw him on a podcast. He was like, I feel bad for him because it's like so much of his image is about being drunk and stuff. So like, he has like fans that are just like that he's drunk too, you know?
Yeah.
And like they force him to do shots even if he doesn't doing stuff.
Yeah.
But he said one time a fan like wanted to take a photo with him and he'd already had his shirt back on. He does every show shirtless.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know that.
He has to, otherwise people
They'll riot.
Yeah.
the Kreischer riots.
Yeah.
They're like destroying Starbucks. So he already had his shirt back on, and the guy's like, "No, take your shirt off for the photo." He's like, "No, I'm good. I already got it on." It was like this big, muscly dude. He's like, "No, fucking take it off." So Bert had to like take his shirt off. Like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
To take a photo with a fan. I would quit.
If
I was, I mean that,
that,
and I guess that maybe he's has humility. That's good, but I would never do a show shirtless again. And I would bring a gun.
Yeah. Dude, it's weird how different comics, like, fuck with their audience to, like, varying degrees after a show. Because I've seen guys who are, like, super famous who are way into that. Like, they still, they want to take pictures with their fans and shit like that. And then I've seen, the exact opposite. Craig, for example, he's a fucking hustler. Like, he's still, he sells his own merch or whatever. He was selling hoodies and shit like that. But he was going outside for people to take photos with their Corvette and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, what a fucking nice dude.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just personality thing. People, you see that with like celebrities. They're like, oh, like Selena Gomez is the nicest. She'll always give fans autographs when they approach her in the airport. And like, I see that and I'm like, I could not fucking handle that.
Nope.
Like, strangers approaching me all the time and like they want to take a photo and talk and like I would just die. I wouldn't. I don't know. And a lot of them I think end up being secluded, not going out of the house. Like if they're not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why you're trying to pursue fame, Aaron. It's gonna be...
Dude, I swear to God, it's not like it's not the fame that I want.
Sure.
It's the compliments.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's
I want people to appreciate my art.
A real superstar that they're like, oh, she always gives autographs and she's always nice. It's like, that's why they're a superstar, because they're desperate for the validation,
Dude, I fucking love it.
Which is a good place to be. That's so much better than like the brooding artist that's like,
Yeah, I don't want to be a cunt. I want to be. I want people to like actually like me and feel like they know me.
Well, for some of us, cunt is deep within our soul.
And I respect that part of you. Maybe more than the rest. Let's wrap this up. Let's move on to new things. Do you want to plug anything at the end of this?
Well, we're not exactly sure what day this will be up, but Thanksgiving Day, I'll be posting my first story to the Patreon. It's going to be called Theodore's Lament, and it's almost 5,000 words, so it's literally just like a 20-minute read if you're a quick reader. So it's a fun story. People should subscribe to the pod, check it out. Randy's already up there, or to the Patreon. Randy's already up there, and we've got 5 stories from me coming up. So
yes,
and they're all going to be longer. It's already becoming clear that they're more expansive. So.
Dude, the Patreon is going to have, so far we only have one tier and it's $5, and I don't know if that's going to change, because our concept behind it is just $5 a month and you get enough, and we know, some people are going to like the podcast and not like the literature and vice versa or whatever, but if you want to support, what we're doing, for $5 you get you're gonna have so much shit on there, and it's good shit. It's my paintings, my drawings made into a fucking graphic novel that I believe in, And Keith is like his this story series that he's working on. I'm also doing like some illustrations for that, some cover art, and we're creating these pieces of art. And the unique and cool thing about the way we're doing it is we're putting it on Patreon first. So before it hits print, we're going to be able to make sure that it is absolutely perfect. I just
and if you like the content of the pod, it's going to both our works we're working on sort of have our views sort of like cleverly disguised within the stories. They're
and some of them have similar themes too. We both it's not a coincidence that Keith and I are friends. We met each other when we were in college. We both came from like kind of Christian backgrounds. We were both when we were in college, like really starting to get into leftist politics. And I think that like the unifying factor, like National Prayer Breakfast has always been intentionally irreverent, especially towards like religious dogma. And there's a lot of that in your stories, and Randy, that's the whole thing. It's completely a satire. Also, I've got some of my comedian friends who are working on some short stories, some poems, all kinds of shit. So we're gonna make it just like a fucking treasure trove, treasure, whatever.
I think treasure trove is a thing.
Yeah.
A trove.
Also, I'm gonna pull my calendar up just so you know what dates I'm doing shit. So Thanksgiving Eve, the 23rd of November, 2022, I'm gonna be in Leavenworth, Kansas. Leavenworth Local is the name of the venue, and that's like an 8:00 show. Thanksgiving, I'm not doing anything. Okay, so this Friday, 11/25, we have Catch a Trying Star, which is the
Black Friday.
It's our Black Friday special for Catch a Trying Star at the Rhino in North Kansas City. It's a showcase that I've been building and promoting and whatever with my friend Ryan Tricky. It's like a very fast-paced, like stoner metal themed, also like low-key, like leftist themed comedy show. And that's always fucking incredible. We get the best comics. We try to book like at least like one up-and-comer in the Kansas City scene who we have seen like really busting their ass. And you have to get on Catch a Trying Star, those people, especially that spot, is just, it's for the comics who are working harder than anyone and are also getting funny as fuck. So that particular position we gave to Dawit Kasahoon. Shout out to him. Follow him on Instagram. His name's Dawit, spelled Dawit. And you can find that on the Catch a Trying Star page. But he's who I'm most excited about to see on Friday. Let's see. On Sunday, I am at Knuckleheads here in Kansas City, which is it's one of the best venues to see live music or anything in Kansas City. And then I also wanted to mention I have Petty and the Straits also taking place here in Kansas City on the 10th of December. Before that, on the 6th, I have Hillsiders in Kansas City, Kansas. I'll also be with Ryan Tricky co-headlining that. So that's December 6th. Let's see. December 13th, Casual Animal Brewery. December 14th, Lula's Southern Cookhouse, also here in Kansas City. And then this is the last one I'll mention. December 17th, I'm coming back to Omaha. And I forgot to write down the venue. But lots of shows coming up. Hope you can make it to one.
Hell yeah. Well, have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And remember to say your prayers.
Say your prayers. Join the Patreon.
Join the Patreon.